Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to another episode of Manders Mindset. I'm your host, Amanda Russo, and I am here today with an awesome guest who I had the pleasure of meeting through Podfest, who also has a podcast as well, and I had the honor of being on his podcast, and I am here with Jon Emery today. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me with you. This is going to be awesome. Can't wait.
I'd love if we could backtrack and you could take us down memory lane, your childhood, a little bit of your upbringing, and what led you to here today.
Sure. Yeah. So my dad had a bar, a tavern is what they called it. So he was working there and he was a bartender, part owner with my grandmother. And, on that journey, I seen people drink and stuff happen because I was in there through my teenage years, helping in the back, cleaning up every once in a while, not as much as it was open, but after hours and seeing some stuff I didn't care for, which led me to probably not drinking until I was like 22. That was a huge gap, but it was enough to make me like, I don't want to go down that road. And I could come back to that part too. But so he had a bar, and I found out when I was around the age of 19, I moved out. My sister wound up going into the Navy, and my mom found knocking on my door at my apartment I had and was like, I'm leaving. And I'm like, oh, okay. I was shocked. Like, this doesn't make sense to me. Knowing that most of my dad's side got divorced. It was just like the path that they were on, for whatever reason. Come to find out, my parents were divorced like when I was 8 or maybe younger. And I had no idea. We just lived in the same house. So I don't know if that changed my life forever because we were still in the same house, thinking that we were still family or whatnot. And I was dumbfounded because other people knew around me. We just had me and my sister had no idea until that day. But I do remember after that fact of trying to deal with it, I couldn't deal with helping her move out. It was just not a part of me that wanted to experience that, even though she needed help. I helped a little bit and left. But my dad did tell me after the fact that he's like, oh, I remember when you were 8, 7, whatever it was. And you're like, oh, where's your ring? And he's like, oh, I just want you to remember that I'm your father and that's your mother and that's all you need to know. And that was enough to still stick in my head today that he told me that, you know what I mean? So I guess when I was that young, I just considered that, okay, why even think about it again? Sometimes people don't wear their rings and they're still happily married. And I never saw anything through my whole life as a kid, like they're not together, they're not married, nothing. I do remember where we left when I was young with my mom in an apartment for a little bit, but I knew nothing about a whole divorce or anything like that whenever that actually took place. So that was my upbringing as far as like the divorce part goes. And my parents, they went their separate ways when I was around, like I said, 19, 20 years old. And I was living my own, and feel free to jump in anytime because I can keep going with my journey here.
Oh, you mentioned your sister. Was it just you and your sister?
Yes. Yeah, it was just me and my sister. She was 1 year younger than me.
Okay. And now, how old were you when your mom came knocking on the apartment door to tell you that?
19 or 20. Yeah, I did move out much longer. I didn't leave home much long after she came. She was pretty much, I guess, waiting for me and my sister to move on, and she was ready. It seems like what it came down to.
I don't know if you remember this, but were they like affectionate to one another at all?
I want to say yes, at least maybe not all the time, but and it's hard to remember that stuff because it's not like looking for it. But
yeah,
they always were there. My dad always worked the night shift part, maybe from 3 o'clock till 3 in the morning, and then my mom would work day shift. So they really didn't see each other as much when he was working at the bar. But other than that, I like the weekends, and we would still do family things, family vacations. So I never saw a gap anywhere whatsoever. So that's not it. And I don't know if that changed the course of my life because they stayed together or what, because of what other people experience later on in life. And we go into that further. If that changed who I am today after going through some other stuff.
Wow. Okay. So you found out about this around 19 or 20, and how was that?
It was shocking. I didn't believe it. And then when she asked for help, I just, okay, I'll help you move. Went to go give them help. Then I just couldn't do it because we went from a 5-bedroom home to her moving out. And then my dad was by himself because I was gone. My sister was going to the Navy. And so it was just him in a 5-bedroom house. Where we grew up, that's where we grew and born and raised. Yeah.
And now, did you go to college?
I went for about a year, and that was about it. So
Okay.
I wound up going, it was probably, I can't remember for sure, but I want to say I did the first semester, and then I wound up getting a full-time job, like second shift for the second semester. I was going full-time and then working full-time. And then when it came to like May or whatever, I was just like, I'm done. I can't. I'm making money. And I didn't like what college was teaching me. I didn't like how it was just another high school in a sense. I saw benefits for it, but at the time I was making money. I was living in an apartment. Things changed now, but it was pretty cheap back then. I mean, I didn't have to cash all my checks if I wanted to, you know, it was just, times were different. At the time, I guess I had a beat up car. It was my first car. It was paid in cash, all that stuff. But yeah, so I was going for computer science, and it was more the code back then. Now everything's changed. But so I wound up getting a job at a printing factory when I was at Teddy's, about 19.
At a what factory?
Printing factory.
How was that?
It was different, right? So it was just because at the time I had my friends, they worked there, and the one was a printer and the other guy was just cleaning the floors. It was a good size company, the place we were working at. And so I'm like, okay, I'm just looking for a job. I don't care. And this is funny because I go in there and the guy comes out. He's like, oh, can you work X amount of hours? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, can you do this? I'm like, yeah. He's like, I got hired. And that's how it was back then. Like with these guys at least. That was it. Like, and I'm in front of my friends, and it was, I'm like, all right. So I think I started the next week, and I was just, at the time I was cleaning parts. Like that was the bottom of the bottom in that plant. So you just clean dirty ink parts that they had in the machine so that they can reuse the parts when they go into the next job. So as a printing factory, we were mostly doing like your Hershey Kiss wrappers to foil with the colors and stuff on it, some yogurt stuff. So at the time we were doing like Jack's Cheese Curls bags. There's some Pokemon card that would cover the cards, stuff like that.
Okay. Approximately when was this?
2000, the year 2000 has started, January.
Wow, they only asked you 2 questions. I was just curious because of that.
As far as I can remember, that's it. I know. I'm like, it must be go summer on it, you know?
Okay. And how long do you stay there?
I was there for 20 years. So I was in there, in that room. I moved around to, they had a section they called the slitting section. So we would take the big rolls, slit them down to small rolls that would actually go to the customers. And then they would cut them at their facility in the certain sizes they needed. So I was in the slitting section, cleaning up, doing stuff there. And then I went up getting the warehousing and the logistics and stuff. And it was me and like maybe 3 other guys that ran that area, that department for a while. So yeah, I was there for 20 years, and we wound up closing around COVID time, not due to COVID, but just because they saw that our plant wasn't performing as their other plant. These were the only 2 plants they had in the U.S.
So post this, where'd you go from there?
Yeah. So let go, and then it was October 2020, I guess. I think it was October 2020. I want to say that's when the production side stopped. So like 60 people walked out the door, and that was hard to see that happen. Since I was in the logistics, the shipping, receiving area, I was pretty much there till it was gutted. I saw all the machines go out the door. We swept the whole floor. I couldn't tell you how big this place was, but I was one of the last 3 that were at the plant when they shut the door. So I was there till May the following year. So that's gives you a time frame for how long it took to take everything out, to get down. The racks I put up, the racks I had to take down. Yeah, all the stuff we received in is everything we had to ship out. That was not fun. And so I wound up leaving that job with the hopes of doing something different. I always wanted out. God, universe, whatever, gave me that push. So here's your opportunity. And it took me a while to see that. So I had no idea what I was going to do. So I wound up just like doing some side stuff after a while, just fixing apartments for people I knew. And the guy that sold it to me, he had an opportunity where he was bringing people on, producers. So he's like, oh, you have integrity. You'd be great. Let's come in, give it a shot. So I got my insurance license. I started learning everything it had to offer. I started doing YouTube, videos and stuff to share what it was all about. And that's like where it started for me with getting out there a little bit, feeling it out and not being afraid of putting yourself out there in the world. So I played around with that till like January the following year. And then things happened at home. So I wound up stopping doing the insurance part. I was able to make one client. It was somebody in my family, and he's like, oh, I don't want to call him. Anyways, the guy I was working with at the time, he's like, oh, you did great. You sold it to a family member, and they're the hardest ones. I'm like, oh, okay. It sounds good. But so, that was a win. And it was definitely a life-changing event for me to learn something new, not to have steady income. I wound up losing insurance after 6 months because that's how long that my previous job paid for. So I didn't have that anymore, that security, as people would say. I said that in quotations because a job is supposed to be security, but I wound up losing that after 20 years. So I don't believe in that. So things shifted for me after January, February of that year then.
Wow. Now, you said you always wanted out, but you were there for 20 years.
Exactly.
What made you not leave?
Well, I was up to like 5 weeks of vacation. I was getting top pay. I had insurance for the kids, and I had 2 kids, so I had to make sure, they were covered. And, the benefits, everything was just fine for me. And I would not have probably left if they didn't close the doors as much as I would probably feel. But, I got in the rhythm, hamster wheel, whatever you want to call it. I was stuck getting there every day, taking care of everything, helping fix problems, whatever you want to call it. It's just comfortable. I got comfortable, as you could say, and just stuck in the way of how life was. Get up, go to work, come home, take care of the house, take care of the kids, take care of the family, and just start all over again, right? A lot of people do that now. They'll come home and just like relax, get up, start all over again.
That's true. So now you had the benefits, you had the good pay. So what was it that made you want out?
I wound up going through like self-improvement books and stuff for a while I was there. I was starting to read things, listen to Robert Kiyosaki. Ed Milet became one later on. I forget some other ones in the past, but it was enough. There's all this different kind of information coming my way, listening to podcasts and audiobooks. And I just saw another side of things that I didn't have to be stuck in this hamster wheel. I didn't have, or rat race, as you would call it. There's opportunity out there. And I didn't know what that was. I didn't know anything, right? Because I was been at this place for 20 years once I was a teenager. So I knew nothing new. I will share with you, I didn't share this before, but I did invest in some rental properties. Like the first house I bought was a 3-unit. And I was in my early 20s. And I worked on that by myself. I redid the carpet, all that stuff. That was all new to me too. Rented it out myself. And then I wound up having kids, and I'm like, my job was this way. My house is here. And then I had to go drive up there to take care of the apartment. And I'm like, this is too much. So I wound up getting a property management company, which was totally different to deal with. It was definitely if anybody's going to get involved in real estate, I'd definitely say do it, but do it yourself first and learn the ins and outs, and make sure you have that cushion there that pay for somebody to do it, because it does step you away and has somebody between you and tenants talk. So I did do that. I did want to buy my dad's house, the house I grew up in. I was trying to redo it, flip it. I had somebody move in it. Unfortunately, that's when the recession kicked in, and I had to let that one go. I had to let go of another house where we used to live, but I learned. So I'm not, in those cases, I don't really want to be that person anymore that has the property to look after. I'd rather, hopefully down the road, be the one that invests money and gets some kind of return on it instead of being hands-on. So that opened up avenues. Yeah, I wouldn't say I didn't do it right, but it allowed me to see a different side of things. I wish I continued that more when I was working, but I got stuck. I didn't reach out to others that were doing it as much. I didn't try to learn the whole process. How do I take from here and grow? I can only just read and listen to so much. It would be connecting with somebody close, somebody I knew in person, that would probably get me over that hump and change things. I know I changed course there a little bit, but I did see the opportunities before I even left that I could do something else. Whatever that was, I wasn't sure.
Okay. So you got into life insurance and you got into real estate. What'd you like better?
I wish I stuck with the insurance more, even though it was hard to sell it in the beginning because I never did sales. I wish I'd stuck with it because I was starting to learn more about what it had to offer, how to maybe network and talk to people better. I did wind up doing 10 Facebook Lives with entrepreneurs to understand their business, and maybe they'd be interested in what I had to offer. Because what we were doing, I don't know if you know, it was called infinite banking. There's a whole bunch of different words out there for it, but it seems like entrepreneurs understood it better. So that's why the guy that was teaching me, that's who he targets, because they get it. They get cash flow. But I did have Facebook Lives, which was new. So we're recording this, but going live is totally different. Anything can happen.
How were the Facebook Lives?
They were good. I liked them. And that's when I'm sparking my podcast. I wound up using them to start it.
That's what sparked it. Really?
In a way, it was enough to get me going to start the podcast. It took a while, and we could go down that path, but doing the Facebook Lives was new. It was started with some people I knew in the area that were entrepreneurs. I was a part of a networking group since I was doing life insurance. The kids were in school, out of school sometimes because of COVID. But yeah, I was starting to venture around, and maybe I'm different now, but at the time, I wasn't really into talking in front of people. So when I was at this networking group, I was able to share everything I knew about the insurance part with like 12 people sitting at a table. And it was nerve-wracking, but it was enough to get me over that too. So I'm glad for the one woman that kind of pushed me a little bit there too.
Okay, that's awesome. Now, you say it was a little bit of time in between then and the podcast. Like, if you know approximately, like, we talking years? Are we talking months? Like, time frame, approximately.
I'm going to guess 2 years.
Okay. But it gave you a little bit of that push. Okay.
Gave me a
now
point.
Yeah, I get that. Now, your kids, how old are your kiddos?
Right now, they are 14 and 11. So my 14-year-old's my son, and 11 is my daughter.
Okay. And are you married? What about?
Sure. No, I'm not married. I'm divorced. I'm not sure. Like, I'll explain. So, like, I was doing the life insurance, and somewhere around that February in that same year, things were happening at home. Stuff was said. I couldn't figure it out. We were married for almost 15 years, 21 years together. And I basically met her when I was 19, and we're together the whole time. So I couldn't figure. Yeah, I get the job hard when that kind of came up a little bit, and so she wound up getting a part-time job at the school, helping as an assistant teacher or whatever they call it, like something like that. Anyways, from February till May of that year, and I'm going maybe 3 years ago now, I wound up losing 20 pounds. I couldn't sleep. There was times when somebody showed up late in the morning. It was never happened before, especially when we have kids. I couldn't figure it out. So as podcasters, we listen to podcasts, and it's just weird how I listen to, I think it's Dad Edge. I think that's what it's called right now. And that was in January of that year. And for whatever reason, they had this program and you could pay so much per month. And it was just about men. It's straight up men, like, being better in all these different areas. And I listened to it like 2 years ago because I wanted to be a better father. Like, it was like a thing of mine. Like, I wanted to try to learn how to show up. And for whatever reason, I listened to this podcast again and I wound up signing up. Now they had all classes throughout the week where you can join these other men on Zooms and stuff and just talk about whatever it is. I didn't attend any of them because I felt like I was losing something, so I didn't want to lose the time I had with my kids. And what I did was I made connections with maybe like 4 or 5 men out of that group. Some of them went through what I went through. Some of them were going through what I was going through, so they got it. And I had the opportunity where if I called one, the one didn't answer. I called another one, the other one would answer, just because. And they would listen to me, I would listen to them. Not that I felt like I had much advice for them at the time, but it was soothing and calming at the nerves that somebody else dealt with the same stuff, or they were going through it and they could see where you're coming from. So, for example, one guy is in Canada. Never met him in person. I told him, like, look, this is where I'm at. And I forget how far into, and this is before divorce was even mentioned. I forget, maybe a couple months into it. So let's just say March, April. He's like, yeah, you're going to divorce. I'm like, no, I'm like freaking out because that was the last thing I wanted because of my dad's side all going through divorce. Like, I never wanted that to happen. But he said it, and it was enough to make me, like, I guess, start to realize and prepare and settle just in case it came. And then another guy who I had on my podcast, haven't met him in person yet, but he was part of the group and he had a masculine course or whatever. It was like a 4-week course or whatever, masculinity course or something. And so I'll be honest with you, the first 2, I was pouring my eyes out because I couldn't figure out what was going on. It was me, him, and another guy. And the other guy was married, and he was there just to be a better man for whatever reason. And so the third session came, and I wasn't pouring my eyes out. I was calm, talking, listening, taking things in. And so through these sessions, we were basically like learning the communication. Like, you're a woman, your communication is totally different than a man. And so he had a diagram, like it would hit a wall and somehow go around, and I would have to communicate back to the woman, this is what I heard. Is that right? In that sense, so we can go, yes, that's exactly what I said. Wife or whatever it tells. So, the man put the food in the refrigerator after dinner. So he just takes the pots and pans and with the food and put it in the refrigerator, thinking that's okay. She never said to put it into a container, then put it in the refrigerator, right? So that's the part where the communication gap is. So stuff like that. And it makes sense, right? So then people start a fight over something like that. And it's not meant to be, but he heard it this way. She meant it a different way, thinking that you're reading what she said. You're understanding what she's saying because she already knows how she would do it, not how he would do it. So that's like what the sessions were. I can't remember all of them for sure. I do have them somewhere stored, but I do remember the diagram showing something along those ways. And going through that course, and talking to these men, I think when we sat down at the table and she said, I want a divorce, I was more prepared. Yeah, I basically say, I'm done. I'm done trying to figure it all out because I was trying to figure it all out forever. And yeah, there's a bunch of stuff going on. I could just drive me nuts, but it was enough for me to be okay with it and see what happens.
Wow. I think that's amazing you were able to find that group, though, especially beforehand. I've never been married, so I've never been divorced, but I've been a divorce paralegal for almost 5 years. So I've seen a lot of sides of it. And regardless of how you feel about it, even if you're the one who wants it, I've had so many people tell me how difficult it is to go through. That is pretty cool.
You can look stuff up like that. It's just communication. And that's the problem I think a lot of people have. They don't communicate. And I feel like that was part of our issue too, is maybe she didn't want to say something, afraid that I would take it the wrong way, when that's all we had to do was sit down and talk about things this way. After divorce is done, everything we did to go through the divorce, we could have done before, and it could have solved all the problems. Not me the problem, not her the problem, but the problems. You have to come together as a team and battle whatever it is you're going through. Communication is definitely huge, and that's why it's up on my, it's up here. Whenever that person, whatever shows up, we have to talk. The deep conversations. Let's just get through it. This is us.
Honestly, I think from everything I've seen outside of infidelity, I think majority of it is communication.
Yeah, I think so too.
Whether even like you mentioned, these small things that slowly lead to bigger things, or even people not mentioning the small thing that bothers you, it builds up, and then there you go. One thing leads to another,
Right. And you could be thinking something. I don't know what you're thinking. You got to tell me. And that's the problem. That's the problem. I hate to say it with women, right? It's just, do it for me. And I know we don't. And we don't know what you're thinking. That's why we ask you to tell us so we can do it, right?
I think as women, we have this, even like you mentioned the pot and pan example, I have this, it's common sense that you are not going to stick the pan in the fridge. So I should not have to say this. Yeah. I don't know.
But, think of the time of cleaning another container we see. It's stuff like that. That's what the men are thinking. It's logical just to take it from here, put it in there, and it's done. Instead of saran wrap or some kind of Tupperware container, you got extra. I get it, but I'm not, but it is funny, right? But that example alone is enough for somebody to have an argument. And for what? It's something where I guess you should just laugh and go, hey, next time let's put it in a container. Yeah.
No, that's true.
Yeah, it's not I talk about communication, and you can't have the hallway communication. You say something and you're just walking by. You have to sit down and have that interaction. A lot of it, I believe, is, you could be sitting on the couch watching a movie and something's said, and then the person gets up and walks away. So you've had no time to go back and forth and try to figure things out. It's just, okay, and then now what? So now you feel like it, you're a bad guy with, using good terms here. They don't talk to each other for a while. Something like that. So I want to say, for me, there was that hallway communication that just happened to show up, and then you're trying to think in your head, I don't get it. How can I fix this?
No, I like that analogy, hallway communication. I've never heard that before. That makes it makes a lot of sense to me. I'm a very visual person, so I could see that. I could see what you were saying.
Yeah, well, it's like hi. You walk by somewhere, you say hi. Well, this time you're walking by and you say something, you just keep on walking. Instead of trying to hold what they're trying to get.
I think that it could even tie into so much more nowadays with social media and texting, and you've got people that'll say something super quickly that they're upset over in a text, and it's what does this really mean?
Yeah,
what you?
Is the worst. I hate it.
I think yeah. Because you can't really tell how somebody's saying it.
No, there's no emotion attached to it. Yeah. Emoji just, you're going to hit the wrong one. you know?
Right? I've done that so many times. No, I have done that so many times. And I'm the person that accidentally sends the laughing emoji when I need to send the crying one. And people are like, why are you laughing that I lost my job? I've been that person. So it happens. You know what I mean? Because it's so quick and easy to just send.
Yep.
One little.
That's why you got to pick up the phone and call and understand, where people are coming from. So when somebody says something on Facebook, they lost so-and-so, their family member, have that interaction with them, show them you care, not just, I'm sorry, I pray for you. That's, it's nice, but it's not everything. They're looking for somebody to reach out in a way, not just a response saying, with our prayers and stuff.
That's so true. Why do you think we worked away from I see that probably at least once a week. Somebody's lost somebody and you see 50 to hundreds of comments about him. Sorry for your loss, sending my condolences. But it's not, you have so a minimal sincerity.
Yeah, I don't know. I get it if you want to put it out there, for, let's just say, family members you don't talk to anymore. Maybe there, I get that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if people say sorry and everything that comes along with it, but I wouldn't put it out there looking for that. That's not the idea behind it. And I feel like a lot, I don't want to say it in the wrong way. You kind of sense that a lot do that, right? Or flip it, right? Let's just say that it's a good day. You're on vacation, having that trip, and you see it all over the place. We're driving this fancy car, and so they're showing all their shiny objects or whatever. It's just to get some kind of response from people, good for you, or, this is awesome. That's just a attention grabber, I think, in my opinion. And yeah, if they work their way up and got to it, awesome. But just to keep showing it to the world and kind of, hey, I got this, you don't, in their way, that doesn't work for me. I don't know why a lot of people do that. I just feel like it's the norm now, that they just feel like they have to show that they are special, that they're successful, or they claim to be.
No, that's fair.
Good question. It's tough.
I gotcha. So now I want to transition to Chad. I'm curious, in terms of timing, how close together was you losing the job and it closing to your divorce?
A year. It's all within the same year. It was May, June of the 1 year I lost my job, and then it was come the end of May that divorce came up. So it was enough to shift. Yeah.
That's tough because it's two things you don't have a lot of control over happening pretty close together.
No. And I felt like I was trying in a way, or I was trying to make an improvement for not just myself, but for the family. It's just the money wasn't showing up right away, but I was able to see the opportunity, provided I kept on working on it. But I wound up stopping to do that and got a full-time job in April before the word divorce came up. Got benefits and stuff pretty much right away. That was not the problem. Obviously, there was, emotional attachment somewhere else already, if not more. And so it was just already, it's all a work in process. It's just, that was already grown.
That's fair. So you mentioned the men's support group that you had. Was there anything else that helped you go through these two pretty uncontrollable situations pretty close together?
Yes, it's basically the few men I spoke to. So one is Jeremy. He was the coach that hired me, or I hired him for that time. Even though he's a professional in psychology or whatever it is, he's got a whole bunch of stuff. But he's it's 10 men. You can find this anywhere. 10 men kill themselves every day over divorce. And he says that, and he's this is his thing. He does not want that to happen to anybody. So that's his battle. So he was very kind. I wouldn't say kind to me, where I was texting him through Facebook Messenger, trying to figure out every little move. And he's like, breathe, just breathe. And because people forget to breathe, and you're in the breath work and people forget to breathe. And if I took 3 deep breaths, I was in a calmer state. I was thinking a little bit more clear. Another one was like, I can't remember the exact words, but it was, don't think of it too much. Don't like focus on the little things. Why is this happening? What's this mean? What's going on here? And that was enough to make me go crazy too. Trying to think of a few other stuff. Like he was so kind to, and not even pay for his services. He would respond, maybe not right away, maybe in another day, but he would respond. And that's what got me to actually work with him for a little bit. That's what got me to actually reach out to him a year afterwards and say, look, this is where I'm at. I think I feel pretty good. We talked for like an hour. He's like, you sound great. He's like, this is the best testimonial I ever had. And, just basically talking back to him. I'm like, I don't know where I'm going from here. Everything was done, but it was just like to catch up, see what my next phase is. And I would have no problem doing that again. Dennis is another guy who I'm still in contact with. He's been on my podcast twice. He's got his own coaching program now. He's still like a chef, but he's one I can still reach out to with questions as far as, I'm still parenting in a way. And then he's been down that path. He's been doing it for years, so it's getting advice there. The third guy would be Nate, but I haven't heard from him in a while, and that's the one that's from Canada. Make sure that he would find a way to not go through the divorce and stuff. But he was the one to tell me, hey, I think you're going in this path. And it was enough, again, to open my eyes up. If it wasn't for those few guys and their life experiences and whatever information they got from anywhere else to share with others, it wouldn't. I don't know. I don't know where I would be. I could be that one of those 10. I don't know. I have no idea. I'm glad I'm not. But I'll be honest with you. Talking to some guys today, I could see how people do it. I hate to say that, but it's like I'm stressed now just even where I'm at. And it's not the divorce part, but it's the after the fact, financially and stuff. Like I'm struggling. Other than that, I'm okay, but I can see why men can't handle it.
Yeah, I know. I never knew that statistic, but I can understand that as well. So I haven't really shared this on my podcast actually, but I have a different understanding of divorce as a woman because my uncle, growing up when I was about 12 years old, moved into my house because him and his wife were going through divorce, and it was awful. It was so nasty, and she told so many lies about him, things he did, things he said, and he went over 10 years without seeing his 2 daughters. And I just saw everything he went through, and I don't know about where you are state-wise, and I think it's gotten better, but so many of the family courts have mind that the woman and the mother have the best interest of the child, know what's best, and I don't think that's always the fucking case. I think it's assumed that because she's the mother, and I get a lot of people looking at me funny with this because I'm a woman, but I'm not saying like mother's instinct. Some women have that, yeah. But I don't think it should always be, and I think that could even be a contributing factor to the men committing suicide because they're assuming prior so many quotes that the mom has the best interest, the mom gets more time with the kids, the mom this, and it's just, why? Like, why is that the case? Nope. Like, she had said stuff, and there was never any proof, and it was just, well, she's the mom. So she said he said this to the kids. He got arrested for different things. And not that he should have to prove it, but it was never like sexual allegation. It was never physical. And it was just, oh, well, she said this, so it happened. And I was just like, fuck this. I'm getting involved in the family courts because men shouldn't have to deal with this. Like, why is this a thing? because the kid came out of her, not to go there, but like because the kid came out of the woman, she knows what's best automatically. I disagree.
Yeah,
You know?
I agree with you there. It's one thing to go through the divorce and you separate as a couple. It's another thing to lose everything. And it's the worst thing is losing your kids or even not seeing them anymore. That is still the worst for me because now we're 7 days on, 7 days off. And for me not to see my kids for like half a year and know that they moved out already and they're not even 18, that's weird. Like I never wished that at all, you know? So that's hard. And I think that's where it hurts a lot of men too. It's the kids. They want to raise them. They want to be with them, do things with them, take care of them. But how can they take care of them if they're taking care of the house or wherever they're at now and taking care of another place that they don't even live and then support everything that's going on over there? And that's why everybody struggles financially and they might commit suicide later on. I hope not, but it's tough. It's still hard for me with the whole kid situation. You know, sometimes I have to call them. I don't hear from them every day. I try to call them every day, but it's not like I have all this interaction throughout the week. I don't have them. But yeah, as far as being one-sided in the court system, for the most part, I think that still exists everywhere you go. Unfortunately, it would get better, but I don't know. It's tough. I mean, we did mediation, so I'll be honest with you there. So it wasn't, we didn't go through the whole court part. We came to agreements that you have to agree on something, even though if you didn't care for it sometimes. But that's the path we chose. And for me, I don't say anything bad about their mother. I don't wish nothing bad for her. And this in here that there's no bashing, and I know that's never came off yet. It's just like it has nothing to do with her as a person. I get if she did whatever she did for whatever her reason is, that's fine. And we chose to take our own path eventually. But it was trying to figure everything out. So we had the problem through that whole mediation stuff and tried. But again, that's the same stuff we could have fixed if we sat down and talked about it, if that was really the problem, but if there's something else, then that probably could have been fixed. Like, where I'm going with it. But yeah, so it's just, you know what? Let's get off track a little bit here. And, it was an opportunity for me to explore things. And I became totally different. Like I'm here talking to you now, which I would not be doing it. I would still be at a 20-year plus job, going to work, coming home, taking care of the house, taking care of the kids. God, universe maybe saw things I didn't see and it allowed things to shift. And this is what's happening to my place right now.
In terms of you transitioning and like you started the podcast, was that post-divorce?
Yes, it was. Oh. So Justin Shank, he lives not like an hour and a half from where I'm at. He had an event the previous year after divorce, and I bought tickets like August of the year I got divorced because I'm like, I'm not doing anything. Let's just go out there and see what happens. So went out there, actually met him in person. He was one of my 10 for the Facebook Lives as a podcast for 100.
Oh my God.
So I never met him in person. Like we're Facebook buddies in a way. So we got the person out there and it was about podcasting, about growth. So he's, the stuff he has on his podcast. And it was in Lancaster, so it wasn't too far, but it was a 2-day event. And I never really would have done that by myself, the family, leaving them at home. So they weren't with me. I was by myself, slept this sounds weird maybe to some people, but slept in a hotel room by myself, which I never did before, basically because I was 19 and had a girlfriend, got married, and I was around somebody all the time, going on vacations, all that stuff. It was just how we did things. So I went out there and this is like how it started. So I sat down at breakfast, not knowing who was going to be down. I just went, Justin's down there and a couple other guys. He's like, come sit with us. So I do. And we're just talking. He leaves, a couple other people leave. And I wish I knew his name. I can't. He was sitting over here. And he's like, what do you want to do? And I'm like, I do want to start a podcast. And he's like, what would it be about? And I told him. And I said I did 10 Facebook Lives, but they had nothing to do with what I want to do my podcast. He's like, well, just strip the audio from that and put that out and start and go from there. So I thought about it for 6 months, right? Never did anything, stripped the audio and made that my first 10 episodes for my podcast, which was enough to get me up and going. I did 3 podcast episodes first and then 1 every week after that, which allowed me to reach out to basically 2 of those guys that just shared information with you about to come on. They were honored to come on. And that's how I started the whole people come on sharing their journey in life. And that just grew from there as far as getting guests. First it was like friends, people I knew, and then it went to like Facebook groups and all that. And then other podcasters are connecting me. So that got me started, and going through the divorce, losing the job, that was my journey. And I don't know how I dealt with it, but I did. But to hear these journeys of other people and what they went through to become so much better, I just couldn't even fathom what it was all about, how they can handle it. So it's like, that was my rock bottom, and then they had their own. And I guess we're all given certain rock bottoms that we're able to handle. So that's why this person got this, and that's why this other person got this, to become better, and they can share that information with somebody else for who needs help. And most of the people, I don't know about you, but most of the people that come on, they'll share their journey and they wind up making a business or something on the other side of it, some way that they can get back. It's not always a business, but they're always trying to provide help some way. For instance, like you and I are talking about divorce. I would be more than happy to talk to anybody as a guy, or, if it's a woman. I hear both sides if they just want to talk about that. I'm not going to say my advice is the best advice, but it's going to come from my experience. And then I would definitely share that. I would definitely share with them that they should reach out to other people to get a collection of it. Don't listen to your friend that's walking with you all the time because they know that their story and this is how it's going to play out, and you just listen to one person, because that's not always the case. But yeah, so that's how my podcast got started.
I love how you mentioned not listening to one person, regardless of what it is you're going through. And we go through different things. I love how you mentioned certain rock bottoms that we can handle, and it allows us to help somebody else through it in some way. Like as corny as it is, like that saying, like it'll be, I'm going to butcher this, but like do you know what I'm referring to? Like you'll tell this story one day of how you overcame this, and it'll be like somebody else's survival guide. Like it's something like that. And even if it's just one person, whether you share that on a podcast, whether you share that like just in talking, like even if it's not with your friend, and like somebody else knows that they're not alone in that,
That's exactly it. And that's why people coming on and trying to spread it out, shoot it to the world. It's definitely life-changing. And you as a podcast host, you get to take all that energy in from everybody that comes on. And you're growing. You're gonna grow more than these other people because you're taking everything. You might not think it right away, but it's true. Yeah, it's not going to happen right away either. But you're, like you said, you're in the quotes. Maybe you're getting quotes from all these different. Yes,
I am. I know that.
Right. So it's going to become like this quote book, and you're just going to run with it. And that's what you need. You need inspiration. Now, I know you probably can't see it, but before the orange, it still shows through a little bit. I have to put more orange on there. You could see quotes on here, and it was over here. Yeah. So like my daughter started writing on them too. So yeah. And I had it on here because something was resonate with me. And I'm like, I don't want to forget this. I'll write it in a book or a piece of paper and it's gone. And I hate going through it to try and find that thing again. So I just wrote it on the freaking wall with a Sharpie. Like, it's not going to go anywhere, you know? Yeah. So anyways, it's still there. We could see it as far as we're get close to it. We can still read it. And I did take pictures if I ever wanted to write it again. People sharing their journey, trying to make things better for themselves and then making things better for others is so rewarding. Whether there's money involved or not, you know, it's definitely well worth just reaching out to that person or somebody else that went down that path and trying to learn from them. Now, when I say like collect from certain people, you got to be careful of who you get your information from, for sure. You know, maybe a close friend might know something. Usually it's the people that aren't your friends that know a lot more of how to deal with things. And that's the people you guys seek for. You know, I should be coming to Amanda, you, and asking, hey, do you know somebody who went through this? And you'd be like, yes, you need to talk to so-and-so. And that person would probably help me out a lot more than my friend next door. Just in certain areas, you know, they have a degree in something, but not a degree in everything else in life. So it's you gotta be careful.
That's so true. And I love how you've mentioned a few times, like not just your friend, like talking to other people that know different things. I think it ties even back in to the communication, like communicating with other people, collaborating, you know, like you and I, for example, you introduced me to Adobe and that's literally changed my audio editing. And it was something so simple, but the amount of people or even friends, or even if I don't want to call them friends, like people close within my life that I've talked to about podcasting, it's never been mentioned to me, you know? So that one quick little thing, and it's like, I have different people that I talk to about podcasting every day. They had never heard of that. I've shared that now with other people. So it's that the collaboration of it. I love that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Who knows if I would have discovered it, when I would have discovered it, etc.
Absolutely right.
So I love that. What would you say has been your favorite thing from the podcast, from starting it?
I'll be honest with you, it's the consistency, the determination to keep going. Because I started not trying to build an audience, not trying to monetize, not trying to do any of that. You become a stronger communicator, listener, host, whatever, however you want to describe yourself doing this. But you change a lot. And you hear it everywhere. Like, start a podcast. And for those reasons, just those reasons alone. And you'll get your name out there, all that stuff. But it's those few things, you know, now we have a relationship, right? So now we're both podcasters that, you know, I don't know if you're going to Podfest or not, but, you know, it's a place that we could probably meet up sometime and we could just grow in that area. But yeah, it's still a consistent, like I'll shoot one out every Tuesday. So as I'll do 2 a week, I won't share that until I know I have it done because I'm not committing to it. Yeah, right. Because once I commit to it, then I got to do it. And I've done that a couple times. And I'm like, I'm doing it then. So I wait till I'm done and then, okay, I have an extra one. I can throw it out on a different day. I don't want to say I'll do something and something happens, I get sick or whatever. I can't do that. But if I can do one a week, which is great, I can. I'll be honest with you. I was supposed to have somebody on tonight. Never showed up. Gave me more time to work on things. Whether we connect, I don't know. But I'm thankful I have a bank of maybe 16 episodes where I wasn't stressing over the fact of having that person right away. So that's something I've learned basically from the beginning. Start with so many episodes and you can get more in the backlog. So you're not killing yourself trying to figure things out. Yeah, it's the communication part that I really enjoy. This is different, right? You're a host, so you're still on that side, but we flipped this. It's totally weird. Like, who wants to listen to me? You know what I mean? I'm usually listening to somebody else. Yeah, so it's a totally different game. I'll be on one tomorrow too. So it's just like trying to figure out that rhythm. And it's great to collaborate. It's great to talk about, like you just said, like Adobe, talk about things, podcasting and stuff, because we can go on Facebook groups all the time and things just disappear and we talk about the same thing. But that's still not a community in a way. Like it's Zoom, but I can see you, I can feel your energy, and you would agree that, it's a lot being said just for communication, but that's where I'm at.
No, I get that. I completely agree. I love how you touched upon the growth of starting the podcast, because I think regardless of whether you want to start a business, you already have a business, you're an entrepreneur, or even if none of that's the case, like there is so much growth involved with starting a podcast, from the communicating, the listening, the consistency, the learning how to do things, the collaborating, the speaking to other people. I'm big on the collaborating because it's something I always say is, you don't know what you don't. I have not been the type of person who learns, well, bro, I am overwhelmed as fuck by research, and the planner in me is going to plan forever and there's all these different options. How do I decide which I want to use? Bro, no, I can't research. I need, here's what you should use. Here's why you should use it. Well, let me try it. Okay, it works. Great. Let's run with it.
Yeah, I totally agree. So it took me a while to pick some other programs, but people are pointing them out to me. And yeah, I tried it. Collaborating is great. Even if it's just not podcasting. If you're like a lawyer, I'm sure lawyers working with other lawyers, that's how you learn and grow. And that's just an example. It could be any business. But yeah.
That's no true.
I love it.
That's no true.
I was going to say something. I'll let it go. Yeah.
What were you going to say? You don't have to let it go. It's not frozen. I'm not Elsa. You don't have to let it go.
So, I want to share real quick, and we don't have to dive in too far, but going through the divorce and everything, it changed a lot. It changed a lot in a lot of areas. And I'll be honest with you, I just want to share this so whoever's listening. I worked on myself emotionally, mentally, get myself together, morning routine. Not that you guys have to go this way. And then I worked on myself physically. I hired a fitness trainer and been doing that for almost years now. Not with him, but enough to where I stay committed, right? And it's, again, being consistent, showing up all the time. And then spirituality, I never went to church. I've been going to church now for like a year and a half. So that kind of touched in my place January of last year. Things just showed up for me and I just been going to it. And then I want to say that now I'm in that business finance space and just, I'm sorry, I missed one of those relationships. So, I mean, not intimate relationships, but like relationships like this, friends, whatever relationship, business, whatever, it's working on that stuff too. So I share this because there are 5 areas and that's the path I took, but that doesn't mean that's the path you have to take. And maybe there's other areas you can dissect them and go deeper if you want in certain ones, but that's the route I decided to take. Yeah.
Spirituality, physical, relationships.
And that mixed mental and emotional together.
Okay.
And then business and finance together.
I gotcha. Well, thank you so much for speaking with me. Have you heard a man named Jay Shetty?
Yes. Yeah.
Love him. Big fan. So on his podcast, I haven't heard all the episodes, so I don't know if it's every episode, but he uses these 2 segments to end his podcast, and I started incorporating them on mine. The first one is the many sides to us. There's 5 questions, and they need to be answered in 1 word each. Okay? Number 1, what is 1 word someone who was meeting you for the first time would use to describe you as?
Authentic.
Number 2, what is 1 word that someone who knows you extremely well would use to describe you as?
This is good. Caring.
Okay.
One word I always use. You're killing me. Compliment.
Okay. What is 1 word that if someone didn't like you or agree with your mindset would use to describe you?
Different.
Okay. What is 1 word you're trying to embody right now?
Yeah. That's tough. I don't know right now. I know. Where do you want 1 word?
I got time, and you said you didn't have an end time, so I can wait.
Yeah, well, I don't know how much will come out of this. That's a thing. So, and this is where I'm coming from. So I do have my values like right there on the wall, and I know that they're not like concrete, and I know that we should be adding one or something every once in a while to work on ourselves and make ourselves better. I have not chosen that one yet. I want to say confident, although I feel like I'm on the edge of already being there. And that could be in so many areas in life, even though I don't have it written down. But if that could be one for you, I would say confidence.
Okay. Second segment is the final 5. 5 questions, and they can be answered in a sentence. Number 1, what is the best advice you've heard or received?
Breathe.
Okay. Why is that the best advice?
Huh?
Why is that the best advice?
Because if it works, I needed it at that time. I told you when it was tough for me. And he said it to me so many times that it got ingrained in my brain. And I see it, and I share it with other people too, to just breathe. Whether they do it or not, that's on them, but it's just that simple.
No, I agree. So many people don't believe me when I say, like, you forget to breathe, even more so when you get stressed, when you get upset, when you get overwhelmed. Like, you're not paying attention to that.
Right.
What is the worst advice you've heard or received?
Have you ever had somebody wait this long? I know. All right.
I've had people be like, can I skip that? And I'm not skipping that.
Right. Get a dog? No, I'm just kidding.
I gotta say, I don't agree with that, because your dog has been in the room the whole time and has not even made a noise.
She's pretty good.
Yeah, I'll say. That is definitely, I don't think that's your worst advice.
No, it's not. I'm sorry, man. This is tough. Worst advice. What was your worst advice?
I haven't answered this. I've had guests tell me they want to hear my answers, but I haven't.
Yeah, we have all the time to think about it.
Somebody didn't do their research and listen to my podcast.
No, I didn't wait till the end. Was that like something that had to be done? I had to wait till.
No, I'm just saying.
Oh,
because everybody gets caught up with these, and I'm always surprised that nobody's heard a previous episode and they're not like, boom, I got this. And I'm just like, oh.
These are the best answers, because it's not scripted. I could have wrote all these down and be like, okay, I'm ready for her. Let's get this going.
It's true.
It's so true. That's why I don't share what I ask at the end. People can go listen, but it's the same thing.
I had guests not want to answer it, and I was like, I'll sit here. I'll just sit here and wait. I'm stubborn enough. I'll sit here.
Well, I want to give you a good answer too. It's just...
Even at the worst, what's bad advice you've heard? You've never gotten bad advice or heard bad advice? Ever? About anything?
I'm going to say yes, but I don't know what that is.
You must have some great people in your life with great mindsets, because you got no bad advice in there. No bad advice.
You know what? One could be going to college. I don't think that's I don't think that's really good advice anymore this day and age, for sure. And so I'm glad I didn't do that. Like I did go for a little bit, but I'm glad I didn't stay and then have to pay debt and whatever else. So I could say that, if that works for you.
It doesn't have to work for me. Whatever you answer.
Let's go with that one. All right, let's move on. Number 3.
What is something that you used to value that you no longer value?
So I want to say these few things, but they're on my value list because I value them still as a person. It's just those things I believe are lost in some other people, if that makes sense. So if I can use that as an answer, like one will be loyal, somebody being loyal and love. those, yeah, and you're probably going to ask me, like, what do I value the most and or whatever. Right. Yeah. But those, how can I put it? If I allowed something that happened to me in the past to not be valued now, those will be it. I don't want to lose myself going through stuff like that. I know I'm not giving you the answer you want.
I'm not looking for a particular answer. I'm not.
Yeah,
Whatever.
like it's not the values I lost. Like I don't know that value is that I lost, because I would say it would be love and loyalty from somebody else. But as me, like I don't want to lose that. So that's my answer, since you're not looking for a particular one.
Okay. If you could describe what you would want your legacy to be as if someone was reading it, what would you want it to say?
Yeah, I would want somebody to remember me as somebody that didn't give up, somebody that pursued to be better in all areas of life, and somebody that reached out to help others. Whether there's monetary value or not, it's all about trying to change the world. And podcasting seems to be that avenue for me right now. So,
Okay.
yeah, I'll add to be part of that is being a better father, showing up for my kids as much as I can when I'm not eating with them.
If you could create one law in the world that everyone had to follow, what would it be? And I want to know why.
Yeah, I'll do this. Every family should have dinner together. And the reason being is because that does not happen anymore. There's no connection within the family whatsoever. And that used to be a 20, 30-minute walk within your family members to get to know what happened that day, how they're feeling, what's going on in their life. That doesn't happen. Now it's just a 5-minute breeze if that happens. And you're back on your phones doing your thing again, or even you're lucky if you're even in the same building, same room that you're eating with somebody. And that was asked to me like a long time ago in Subway in New York. Something about family and stuff. And I remember that moment. I forget the exact question, but it is, I believe, I remember growing up, and my parents were divorced at whatever age, but I remember trying to have the family dinner together if we were able to make it. And I don't remember the conversations, but it was just sit down at the table, the four of us together for 20 minutes or whatever. That it doesn't exist anymore. So that would be my reason why.
I honestly completely agree with that. I fortunately grew up where I had the family dinners, but I noticed like a lot of people, even a little bit of a younger generation than me, didn't have that. Well, thank you so much for speaking with me. I really appreciate it. And now, where can the listeners connect with you and find out more about you?
Yeah, so Life's Checkmark is the podcast. It's a huge check mark with the same orange color back here. And that's where people share their journey in life. And you can go to lifescheckmark.com. That's where I have my coaching program, my podcast community, and you just reach out to me, email, so YouTube, I have the YouTube channel too. So that's where you can find me.
Awesome. And I will link all of that in the show notes. Now, before we close out, no pressure whatsoever, but I do like to leave it back to the guest if there's any final words you want to share with the listeners. No worries whatsoever, but I do just like to leave it to you.
Sure. Be you, be your authentic self, and stop worrying about what other people think about you. Connect with the people that you're supposed to be really connected to, because you're being yourself. And when you stop people pleasing and you stop trying to show up in a different way that's not you, you definitely be happier. You'll definitely enjoy life better, and you'll see things from a different perspective. So I would encourage everybody to find themselves, to speak their own voice and be authentic.
Thank you so much.
Sure. You're welcome. Thank you.
And thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Manders Mindset.